So if you can't perform live, virtual doesn't compare. Doing virtual performances really doesn't compare. Maybe it's a new transition. Maybe that is the new thing to do. When there's something dynamic as COVID, let's definitely have to work around that. So it's either getting adjusted to the new normal in the sense of doing everything virtual, do everything live but on the screen. For me, it's going to be difficult to transition. So I'm trying to see if I'm going to be one of those musicians that will be able to adapt. You don't, as a musician, live performer, you don't get the same vibe, the same feedback virtually than when you do a live performance. So that's part of like an integral part of a live performer. You just get feedback off the audience. Hey, do I play certain music? How are the audience responding to how I'm playing? I need to give more, give less, and virtually it creates a different type of performer. So it's been difficult, and those are the changes that have affected me as a musician. Just we'll see how it goes from here. I'm definitely trying to adapt to the virtual. At the moment, I don't like it, but
Right.
but we'll see how it plays out from here and on. We'll see if the people respond to the virtual experience well. If they do, I'll continue being a musician, perform. But if not, we'll see. Time will tell.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next question is it hard to keep your team connected? And you kind of already answered that, being a live performer, you don't really connect. Can I say that if you practiced with an outside team other than COP since March?
So I rehearsed with some musicians that I have networked with throughout the years, and since we don't do any live events anymore, no weddings or no corporate events, we pretty much haven't gotten together anymore. So it's been difficult to connect if there's no reason to connect besides social gatherings. Besides that, like when it comes to the musical aspect of it, we really haven't connected anymore. So if you don't have the music, a reason to get together, which our primary thing was music to perform, we'd get together to perform. If we don't have that, there's no really reason to connect. So yeah, it's been difficult. We've tried the virtual experience, getting record on our own and then submit to one of my good friends, and get the videos together. But again, it's just not the same feel. It's not the same experience. So it's been difficult to connect. It has, again, technically we're not supposed to gather together, so that the law won't allow us either. So that, of course, that's made it difficult as well to gather. So it's been tough.
I'm going to skip over this next question because it's another team question. You kind of pretty much answered that. So the next question would be, do you find that stress and panic play a part in your process? And what I mean by that is process with you saying that you're a live performer. Are you stressed at all that you're not prepared like you usually are because you just can't gather? Or
Oh yeah, the stress element definitely. I don't know where the future is going with this, so is it the end of life performance? So as a saxophonist, it's the fact that we can't predict the future, especially with what's going on. Will the lockdowns end, or is this something that we have to adjust to the new normal? So I'm stressed with the fact that that I based my whole musicianship on live performance, and stress that might never come back again, sadly, unfortunate. So yeah, it's a little bit stressful, knowing that's something I look forward to as a kid, or ever since I graduated high school, being a life focused more on live performance. And definitely is stressful thinking about it. Is today the day that's it? It's done with. Is it? So yeah, it's a little bit stressful thinking about the future, unknown future. So yeah, that's the situation.
oh my goodness. Okay, the next question would be, can you remember, was there ever a time where ministry, because you play a lot in church, where ministry was this hard?
From the top of my head, if I can think about it right now, I can't not think of a time than today. as difficult as today, there was a time where I had to get surgery, and I was out about 6 to 8 weeks when I had surgery in 2009. But I was back up and playing again. It hasn't, nothing, I don't think anything is compared to what we've encountered today. Again, my network isn't growing. Maybe virtually, but again, it's not the same. Not doing any events, not doing any venues. So this is definitely one of the most difficult times in ministry. Again, at the moment with the situation in California lockdowns, we can't gather at churches, so there's no performing for me at churches. So it's definitely been very difficult time since I've started roughly 2007. So yeah, I don't think there's been a time that's comparable or close to it. This is by far the most difficult time. So yeah, that's without a doubt.
Ooh. The last question, and of course you can expound, or you kind of already touched on it, but do you feel it hard to create new music in this time?
So I've thought about probably getting a little bit more into producing the new modern music, and try to incorporate the elements of jazz into that new trap, hip hop, or lo-fi jazz type. So I've kind of leaned a little bit, thought about reevaluating myself as a live performer and going into the producing, because that's a different element in the music. So I've thought about transitioning to that. I'm slowly doing it, slowly, as I see the live performing is slowly fading away, and that's going to be the new transition. I'm trying to adapt to the performance aspect of it, so slowly working on my purchasing and equipment and see where that goes. For me, that's a whole new spectrum in the music field. So the producing and all that. So I'm starting from scratch. I had to redefine the direction I was going as a live performer, ministry to now as a producer, to stay busy as a musician. So it's.
Do you find this way a little bit more fulfilling?
Yeah, I definitely find that it still fulfills and satisfies that people listen to music that they'll get to enjoy, definitely. Again, it's just for me, so I have to step back again, like when I started in 2007, and network, a whole new network, and find a different way, reach different platforms, different audience, on how to get that music out now virtually with all the social media platforms. So that's something, that direction I'm definitely slowly planning to make sure it's successful and I stay relevant as a musician. So definitely, yeah, it's been really difficult. It's been tough. So
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Listen, but thank you so much for expressing this with us.
Yeah.
To him.
Can you state your name for the camera?
Kevin Stansel.
Say again?
Kevin Stansel.
Awesome. Okay, so as you know, this is a documentary about new music, about your lives as an artist, and since the pandemic. So the first question is, how has your life changed since March 2020?
March 2020. I think what changed dramatically as far as life is concerned is the shutdown, obviously, of not being able to go out and go on vacations or go on excursions or what have you. Once the country shut down, it changed life as we know it. So it was very easy to feel somewhat unorthodox because of the fact that, life, again, as we know it, had changed due to the fact that what's normal is not normal anymore. So, gatherings, being with family, friends, going to the malls, going to the movies, all of that. Going to the music store, of course, was what I do. It was very hard. It was a big change. It was also hard to adapt to that because for years this is what we've been able to do. So it's changed drastically within that measure. Mhm.
And as from a music standpoint, as an artist, how has, the calls from you actually having jobs or going out, has that changed drastically, or are you still capable of working?
Anybody in my field has been drastically affected by this change. And then the other thing is that the tours and everything, the physical going to the studio, recording sessions and all of that came to a screeching halt. A lot of people who work with different artists, recording artists and touring artists and all of that, everything again just came to a complete stop, and it actually made things a little different where normally what I would do is go do live recordings. So we would go to different states, different cities or whatever. All of that again came to a halt. So what people do now is, with technology being the way it is, they just send their music to me at my house. I record on it and I send it back. So we don't lose in that magnitude, but just the interaction with each other has been a drastic change. So how it's changed, just again with them sending their music in, it hasn't affected that. But as far as again the going out and just the experience, the audiences and the big stages and all of that just came to a halt. So it hasn't really changed as far as being an artist is concerned, because again, you have that element where again they can send their music in, you can record to it, they can tell you what they want, how they want it, the whole thing, thanks to technology. But once you've gotten to that point where you're done with that, you're still sitting at the house. So again, there's this whole thing about not going anywhere. So, but hadn't changed too much in that regard. But again, the travel is just what it is. So.
Good to know. So sorry. Okay, so do you find that stress and panic play a part in your process now?
Stress can, panic no. Fortunately, well, let me say this way, a lot of people have been affected negatively by the pandemic. So that produces stress within itself. I hate to say this, but during the pandemic era, I think just individuals that I know, I've lost about 49 people who've died from the COVID-19 pandemic. And, 2020 just wiped us out. So it really just did a number to a lot of people. So stress and panic came at a time when people were getting sick suddenly. People unfortunately transitioned from this earth, and that was really hard. I think the light went out. Yeah, I think the light went out. It's right there. Did you pay the bill?
Right. Did I pay the bill? How'd it go out? Because this light's still on. This is still.
What?
Because it's kept us involved, we're good.
Y'all crazy. So what? Did it go out?
Yeah, I don't know why. It's still green.
There you go.
What's that, sir?
No, they're not. Not yet. No.
They're still on.
All right, so let's just go ahead and move on to the next question.
Mm-hmm.
Let's look on your face.
No, I was looking at Toya.
So cute. Okay. Can you remember a time where ministry was this hard?
No. We've all gone through circumstances and things have happened, and people go through their individual stuff. And, life tries you every single day. So we get all of that. As far as ministry is concerned, I don't remember it being as hard, but to some, from what I'm recognizing, it's actually easier now because a lot of people have to not rely on what they relied on before. So now they have to come full circle and say, okay, we need help. We don't have help everywhere else like we normally did. So to some, it's easier to get people to pay attention now. So this was a wake-up call. And the virtual thing, with all of that, it's actually much easier if you think about it, because there was a day when you were at your church, they didn't have cameras, they didn't have the Wi-Fi, and they didn't have all of the videography and all of that as we have here now. So as a result of that, I think it's easier now to reach more people these days, and to be able to get the word out. And again, everybody is just, we talked about it earlier, panicking. You know, people need something to hold on to now, because what we had before is null and void at this point. So.
Awesome. Last question is, do you feel it hard to create new music?
No, I don't feel it's hard. I think the other thing is with me is that sometimes creating new music, sometimes you have to have your ear to the ground, because you'll end up sounding like somebody else. Because these days there's so many sounds that everybody's using the same sounds, everybody's using the same software, everybody's using the same microphones, everybody's using, you know, the chord structures are the same. Out of the 12 notes in the scale, every note has been played, every chord has been played, every beat has been beat, every riff has been, you know, uttered. So you have to make sure that when you create music that you come from the heart with it, because although we all have the same elements and the same ability, we don't have the same heart. So as a result of that, you know, it's easy to, when it comes from the heart, it's easier. Still trying to make sure you don't sound like nobody else. But one thing I know these days, a lot of people are so busy trying to sound like what they thought worked. So, you know, if you wrote a song and it got you so much publicity, it was so successful or whatever, then I'm going to try to create a sound that sounds like yours because I want a piece of that pie. When actually what I did was I put myself in general population. So I'm mass produced, they won't find me because I sound so much like you. Why settle for me when you're there? So what we try to do now to create new music is to actually come from the heart with it. Make sure that, you know, you speak your mind. And if it doesn't sound like what works, then you are what works because you're different. So, and that's what people are looking for. I always use people like, you know, I know this is church, but I've always used people like Prince. Like if Prince sounded like Michael Jackson, we would never know who he is. If Michael Jackson sounded like Prince, we would never know who he is. But because Prince decided he was going to be Prince and Michael Jackson decided he was going to be Michael Jackson, we had two of these iconic individuals come together and create a sound like never before. And now that they're gone, you'll never hear them again. So anybody who tries to do what they did, more than likely, it won't come out the same. So new music, no, it's now we have to come from the heart because again, the pandemic has shut us down, you know, so we have to come from a place where we understand that, you know, if I'm going to say this to you, it has to come from here, and that's what makes it different. So it's not hard to do.
Well, thank you so much. That's
Thank
awesome.
you. Thank you.
Do you have anything else that you would like to share with your fellow peers as musicians in this hard time?
You know what? I will say this. A lot of us are realizing that music is not like it used to be. The business is not like it used to be. Where doing a CD these days is not a big deal anymore. I remember back in the day when I was coming out and you said doing a record, it stopped the world. Oh my God, you're doing a record.
Right.
Now somebody says, yeah, I got a CD coming out. Oh, okay, well, congrats. Because it's so easy now. The companies have made it so easy for us to literally do it in our own living room. So I would say now that the business has changed. We got to do other things now. You know, the road is not open. Travel is limited. So we have to get to a place where we understand that, you know, you might have to get an online business. You might have to, you know, the hustle is great now. I mean, if you ain't thinking about selling nothing before, everybody's selling something now, everybody. But I would just say, keep at the music, keep at the, you know, the posture of becoming a great musician, a greater musician. But, you know, also understand that, you know, once the music stops, you still got to pay the light bill. So do what you can and keep your hustle going, but don't stop playing. That's just it.
Well, thank you so much for being here, sir.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
That is a wrap.
He talked about the foundation, but I found out melodies can take people to places that they didn't know they could go. A lot of people don't know that the bass can be used as an instrument to usher in worship as well. A lot of people don't know that. But I found out through experience that this gift right here that I call, it's not just a bass to me. But I found out that this bass has the opportunity to bring you into such a level of worship as it's powerful. You know, God's word, God's music, God's power is never going to fade. So that's really where we are with that. But you got to learn the melodies of songs. And melodies can actually bring, like I said, it can bring you to a form of memory.
So you're saying we need to learn the melodies of the song. You're talking about just in our minds or actually learning the song on bass?
On the instrument, yeah. Yeah, you need to learn because what happened is, okay, wait.
So your name is?
My name is Charles Williams.
Awesome. Awesome sauce. Thank you so much for being here, Charles. Let me get my questions. So, first question. How has your life changed since March 2020?
I'll say the biggest change has just been not knowing if churches are going to be open. I think, being a musician, I think most musicians kind of rely on kind of a church situation where they can play. So, hearing about all the churches closing doors, it's kind of been like, just hard to kind of deal with that, not knowing what's going to happen, I guess. So I think that's probably been the biggest change for me, just trying to deal with the churches closing their doors, I think.
What have you tried to do to keep ministry and your music running smoothly in this time?
I think just making sure I, do things at home, because, with everything closing down, there wasn't really a lot of opportunities outside of the home for ministry. So, you kind of have to create those opportunities for yourself. Also, kind of using an opportunity at home to create music. It's been, because there's a lot of extra time now, right? Because, so many things have closed, right? So there's not venues like concerts and shows and things like that. Those opportunities aren't as readily available. So, I've had to kind of create my own thing, my own time, especially when it comes to worship and ministry.
Awesome. In this time, do you find stress and panic play a part in your process?
I mean, it's hard not to. Panic tries to creep up sometimes, because you hear about things and you're like, you worry about your family and things like that. So I try not to panic, but stress does come and go, and I try to deal with it. Music is one way that I deal with stress. Whether I'm listening to it or just taking time to create music, that's kind of like that's kind of my way of dealing with it, dealing with the stress. And talking about it is really important too. That kind of brings me back down. when I feel like the panic is trying to creep in. So yeah, I have my ways of dealing with it to kind of keep my head kind of level.
Do you feel it hard to create new music in this time?
It's been harder because there's so many distractions, right? I mean, with the pandemic, you have, an election going on. You have so many changes with school, and I have a family, so with your family, I think my kids, their school closed, so it's like a lot of changes going on. There's a lot of distractions, right? So I have to basically kind of manage my time carefully and create those moments for me to create music. So it's really just about time management, and there's going to be distractions regardless, any time of the year. But especially right now, it's really important to manage your time, create those opportunities for you to sit down and have your alone time so you can create. I think one of the biggest one of the biggest things that makes creating music hard is just distractions. You have to kind of be able to focus on that creative process, and so yeah, creating that time for yourself is just really, really important. So that's what I try to do on a regular basis.
Alrighty. Can you remember if there was ever a time where ministry was this hard?
I'll say there's been difficult times for sure, but I think this has been like an awakening for so many people. This has been, I think, definitely one of the most difficult times I've ever witnessed or ever experienced, because it's the whole world's been impacted, and churches everywhere have had to change the way they do church. Moving to the online platforms and things like that. It's been really difficult. It's doable, but it's also difficult because people need to come together. People want to come together. It's a different atmosphere when you have people coming together. So I think that's been like the hardest for ministries. It's like not being able to come together as a church. Because it's a whole different experience when you can be around people as opposed to just watching it on a screen. So it's good to have technology, but it's definitely been difficult for sure this time. Yeah. Yeah, this has been definitely no other time really compares to this time we're going through right now, for sure. Yeah.
Do you have anything that you would like to say to your peers, your fellow musicians in this time?
I would just say, be encouraged. I know things have changed quite a bit, but there's still opportunities out there. Just be careful though, and don't be so stuck on. I know we got to make money, but there's some opportunities out there just to use your gift, and kind of enjoy what you do. So you're not always gonna get paid. Like maybe somebody's offering a gig, and you have open availability. You can still have an opportunity to play and use your gift. Sometimes God will bless you in the midst of that. He'll give you a blessing in the midst of that. So use your gift still, even if you're not always getting the money you're expecting. But take those opportunities as they come to you.
My name is Deshaun Brown.
Thank you for being here, Deshaun.
Yeah, most definitely.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, so we're going to jump right into these questions.
Right.
And our first question, of course, you know that this documentary is about new music in your lives in this time. So how has your life changed concerning music since March 2020?
It's changed tremendously. I don't go out as much anymore. Always at home, thinking about working on music or doing something, you know, to better myself as a producer. Even getting into some other stuff too, some other, you know, business ideas and all that. So, you know, I got time to stay home and think about my next move, you know, when this is all over.
Right,
Yeah.
right. That's cool. That's good though. As a producer, have you been getting calls like from people to
Oh
do
yes,
music for you?
yeah, most definitely. Yeah,
Okay.
I think like it's been better than ever at this point.
Wow.
Mhm.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. The next question is, what have you tried to do to keep ministry running smooth in this time?
To try to keep it running smooth. Honestly, I just do my part. You know, I'm here to play. You know, and I love playing. I love what I do. So I always, you know, make it fun or make it, you know, something that, you know, I enjoy.
Right.
If that answers your question.
Right.
I'm sorry. Yeah, you could probably block that out.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
That's really good. Okay. So, do you find that stress and panic play a part in your process now?
No, not now. I think in the beginning, like when everything started, it was a little like, 'cause, you know, we didn't know what was happening next. So it's like, but I you know, I kept my faith, and I prayed about it, talked to God, and you know, He gave me the peace and the, you know, the courage and the confidence to move forward and keep going. Yeah. So I don't stress about it at all now at this point. I'm just ready for it to be over.
Right. No stress, but it can be.
You're right.
Awesome. Okay. Can you remember a time where ministry was this hard?
Honestly, to be honest, I don't consider it being hard now.
Right.
I think it's, you know, less people you got to deal with. It's not really hard. I think it's dope. I think it's amazing. Churches are finding new ways to do ministry. They're finding new ways to have church, and I think they should keep it going, keep the energy, and I think it's dope.
Cool.
Yeah, I don't mind going back to having church again and everybody come to church, but if it stays like this, I'm good with that too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, that's
Yeah.
cool. It's a different perspective.
Yeah.
That's awesome. A bright perspective.
Mhm.
Awesome. Last but not least, do you feel it hard to create new music? You kind of touched on it a little bit.
Oh yeah, nah, it's not hard at all. It's I'm at home sitting a lot of the times now, now that things are starting to kind of open back up, I'm able to get out, get some inspiration, and but as far as writing or composing new music, it's coming like that now.
Right.
Yeah,
Oh, that's cool.
Mhm.
Okay. That's good because,
Yeah.
you know, the premise of the documentary is kind of on a sad note, like,
Yeah.
you know.
Oh,
it's a
well, I'm glad I
sad
could
note,
be a
so-
light.
Right. So it's good to have a perspective that's a light.
Mhm.
Like, you know,
Yeah.
and, you know, it's not truly
Mhm.
affecting you in that way. So
Mhm.
it's really good to have that.
Yeah.
And I would just, if you have anything that you'd like to say, especially you, since it's so to your fellow musicians.
I would say, man, stay positive, stay encouraged, stay confident in what you do. Everything's gonna work out. It's gonna work out. It's gonna be even better. Yeah, it's gonna get there.
Awesome. Man, a few words.
Right.
Awesome sauce. Well, that's all I have. Thank you so much for your time.
No problem.
Cool.
Yep.
Cool. And that is.
sing?
I don't want to.
We doing a verse too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just like that.